Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the No Notes Podcast. My name is Morgan.
I'm JD.
And this week we have a fun episode coming off of a fun movie that just came out, Twisters. If you have not seen Twisters yet, you should. It's amazing. We're going to talk about not only Twisters, but also just natural disaster movies in general because it's one of my favorites. I just think it's such an interesting thing to make movies and books and things about. So let's just jump into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
My first question being, what is your favorite natural disaster?
Which is such
in real life
absurd question.
If you had to, well, let's put it like this: if you had to be in any natural disaster, which one would you want to live through?
Sharknado. I don't know. I feel like they're all like it's a disaster for a reason. Like it's terrifying and it's. Yeah. But what the most terrifying part of the word natural disaster is probably the word natural, because like you can't do anything to stop it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just nature. It's because the world is like broken that we have things like this happening. So I don't know. Maybe the one I've had the most experience with is probably hurricanes or tornadoes, because I grew up in Alabama.
Oh yeah.
Which is not quite tornado country like Oklahoma is, but we do get some.
Yeah.
And we also get hurricanes because it's like right off the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. So I don't know. Those are kind of a soft spot in my heart. Cool tornado story. If you grew up in Alabama, then or if you lived there in the 2000s, then you know April 27th, 2011 was like this one of the most destructive tornadoes like ever. And it came through, and I remember I was 10 years old at the time, and I remember like going to bed and then waking up the next morning in like our basement and being really confused because I had slept through all of the tornado sirens, through all of the wind and the rain and the hail and everything. Just slept completely through it because I'm like the heaviest sleeper. So
nice. Yeah. So you'll just sleep through any natural disaster, so it doesn't matter.
Basically. I don't know. Do you have a favorite natural disaster?
I think I have to pick tornadoes. I am from Oklahoma. Twisters is very near and dear to my heart. Tornadoes are like nostalgic in a way. Like I understand that they are like these terrifying things that kill people and hurt people and ruin people's lives. Like I understand that part of it. But there is like kind of a culture around it that you get when you grow up in Oklahoma. Like when I think of like tornadoes and storms, like it comforts me because we always had like, it'd be like, oh, the tornadoes are coming today. So, like, everyone would come hang out, and we'd all pull out our chairs and sit and watch the storm with, like, your neighbors or your family would come over. Like, whoever had the storm cellar, like, the biggest one, like, everyone went to their house and just waited for it to maybe come. And so it was, like, sitting out on the porch, drinking beer, waiting for the tornado to come. Hilarious. And it was always, like, really fun moments of, like, oh, Grandma and Grandpa are coming over, and you're kind of heightened, but it's, like, not really scary if you're right next to a shelter. Like, it's probably not more scary as an adult if you, like, own a house and things. But as a kid, like, I was like, I'm not going to die. Like, we'll just get in the shelter. Like, my house might be gone. But stakes were a little lower at that point. But I have a lot of, like, and then you'd, like, get out of school if it was really stormy and they thought tornadoes were coming. It'd be, like, go drive home. And then you'd drive home and just, like, watch the storms all day. And I loved it. And it was really fun. And we'd, like, watch the... There were lots of moments where it was not fun. Let me make that clear. My parents' favorite story to tell is, I don't remember how it was. I was like maybe 10, and tornado sirens were going off. It was like 3:00 in the morning, and they get all of my sisters, my mom, my dad. They get the Chihuahua, like all of our dogs, into the cellar. And then my mom in the cellar is like, wait a minute, like, where's Morgan? Because they grabbed the dogs before they grabbed me. And my dad had to come back into the house. This is what it's like to be a middle child. They came back into the house to get me to come back. No tornadoes came that night, but it was funny that they left me there.
That's insane.
Yeah, probably the worst.
That's the worst, like, middle child story I've ever heard.
Constantly forgotten.
Oh my gosh.
I did have one that was super close that, like, the skies get super green too, which is like one of my favorite parts because it's just like it's like a sunset because it's like so different than what it usually looks like, but it's like scary. It's like this dark green color. And I remember when I was a kid, we had my family and my grandma and grandpa were there, and we were all in the shelter, and we could like see the tornado in the distance, like going across the horizon. And all I remember is my mom and my grandma yelling at my dad and my grandpa to shut the door. They're like, shut the door, shut the door. Maybe some curse words are thrown in there. And my dad and my grandpa were like, no, like, I want to watch it. Like, I want to look at the tornado. So they're watching it until eventually it was like too late, and it was so close, and the winds were so strong that they couldn't shut it. And so everyone's just crying, like, close the door, close the door. And like, I don't think they ever got it shut, or maybe they did, but it turned and went the other way. And
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I really like tornadoes like as an entity. I think they're really cool. We learn about them so much in school. Like we went to the science museum in Oklahoma, and they always had like the glass box, and you stood in it, and it like you picked F1 through F3 or whatever, and the winds like there's good memories I have with it just from it like being so a part of Oklahoma culture, I guess. So but I think if I could see one without experiencing the disaster of it, I would want to see a tsunami. Because the ocean is so cool and so big, and it's like you just stare at the ocean and like have an existential crisis. I feel like seeing a tsunami would do that like times 100. Like I just can't even imagine like what a tsunami would look like in person.
That's true. I've long said like I never ever want to go to space. And I never, ever, especially want to go underwater.
I wholeheartedly agree with these statements.
To me, like, I don't know, like, I feel like I would rather go to space than go in a submarine. Like, because when you're underwater and you have, like, the pressure, like, is so built up down there.
No, thank you.
Like, no thank you, never. And so, yeah, like, anything that goes on underwater, I'm freaked out by. I don't want to be anywhere near that. So, like, a tsunami is, like, underwater coming to you, that's terrifying.
Yeah. But there is, like, beauty in this, I think, which is why people make art about it and films about it, which we're going to get to eventually on this film podcast.
Instead of just talking broadly about natural disaster stories.
It's beautiful in, like, when you're at the top of a mountain and you're looking at everything and creation and its beauty, it just feels so much bigger than you. And I think that's what's beautiful about natural disasters. It's something so big and so terrible that makes you feel so small. And I personally really like that feeling.
I think that's fair. Because, it is like, it's natural. Like, men didn't make this.
Yeah.
No human could, like, create a tsunami, right? Yeah. Unless you're using visual effects, right? Like, it's a beautiful force of nature. Like, it's crazy that it exists. And I understand the desire to want to capture it in cinematic form too. It's like a tornado is like powerful and dangerous and scary. You know, it takes lives sometimes, but it's really fascinating. Like I don't know, in a lot of ways we make art in response to the things that terrify us as much as the things that entertain us, right? And so it's almost like the same as a horror movie in that way.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to capture and like bottle the emotion that this thing feels and provide some like channel to experience a natural disaster without actually experiencing it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's like I don't know. We'll talk more about this specifically for sure. But it's like, I think just as an intro to the conversation, like natural disasters as a subgenre of film, to me makes so much sense.
Oh, yeah.
Like, of course you would want to capture something terrifying like this. Like, I don't know. It's like...
Especially that, like, so many people have experienced and, like, relate to in some way.
Yeah,
and
totally.
There's just so many cool things about it.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with our little review of Twisters because we were just like, oh, let's talk like only natural disasters because Twisters coming out, and then I saw Twisters and it's all I want to talk about. It was just so much fun, and like for me personally, like so many connections made. And
I really did want to hear your thoughts on Twisters because there were so many things. Mariana and I saw it together and we were like, and yeah, there was the one scene where there were those little girls playing softball. We were like, that's Morgan.
Literally me. It's crazy. Like, I've played softball on that field at the end of the movie that they're in. And, like, they went all over Oklahoma, too. Like, I recognized, like, so many places. And, oh, it was so good. What did you think of it overall? Did you love it? Did you like it? Was it meet expectations?
Yeah, I thought it was super fun. It was so cheesy and had like basically no plot.
Yeah.
So
you watched the first one
I watched the first one for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Like, which, like, I don't know how I had never seen the first one, first of all. Like, because Jurassic Park is my favorite movie.
Yeah.
And Twister is literally just Jurassic Park with tornadoes.
Absolutely.
Like, the story feels kind of similar, but, like, the
vibes.
The vibes are exactly the same. It's like the same screenwriter, the same producing team. I mean, different director, obviously, but like somehow they just captured exactly how Jurassic Park feels and put it in Oklahoma. And I was like, how have I never seen this movie? How have I not seen this movie 15 times?
Yeah. See, I feel like everyone has seen it, but that's because I'm from Oklahoma, and everyone from Oklahoma has seen it. So I didn't know like how popular it was out in the real world.
But I thought it was super fun. Again, it's like I watched Twister, and I'm like, this is like just a good time. Like there's not really any plot. It's super cheesy, but it's a bunch of like fun actors doing silly things, and you watch, and it's really exciting. And then that's literally exactly how I felt about Twisters. I like it's not a sequel at all to Twister. It's like it's not even a remake. Like they don't have any of the same characters.
It's just the same subject.
It's just the same subject. So it's like people are calling it a legacy sequel. I don't think it even qualifies.
No,
it's not even really a remake. It's like its own thing. Just about like tornadoes still.
Yeah.
But I felt the same way about it. Like spiritually they're the same movie.
Yeah.
Like no plot, super cheesy, fun actors giving really fun performances. I love Glenn Powell. What a guy.
Killing it.
The guy who played his friend, Brandon Perea from Nope. He played Angel in Nope, one of my favorite movies from the last couple of years. He's my new favorite guy. The guy who's like the hillbilly with the big mustache.
Yeah.
I loved him.
He was fun.
But yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought the natural disasters in it were great. Like genuinely scary. The opening scene, genuinely scary,
yeah,
like,
like
harrowing. And then the rest of the movie became like this like fun roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
So I really liked it.
Yeah. I think that's like, exactly how I feel about Twister too. Like it's just fun. It's not like incredible in any sense, but it's like unique because you don't really see movies like that are like. It's either like they're super horror or they're like really comedy, and this is like somewhere in the middle where they're like there's really genuinely scary parts of it, but the people surrounding it are so silly and insane, which is so true to real life. Like
it felt like Oklahoma.
Yes. Like people like make jokes about it and they make light of it, like knowing how serious it is, and I just kind of love that about it and about Oklahoma in general.
Did it feel like a piece of home we were watching? Dude,
I like teared up a few times when they like play little country music and it's like the montages of them just driving down the road, and like you can't get over Oklahoma's just flat landscape and just seeing so far down the horizon line and like sunsets and like all of those little things, you put them together in a beautiful movie, like when I haven't been home in a very long time, and you play a cute little country song over it, like I will cry. So there were moments that definitely made me tear up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, my parents actually just moved to a little town called Hinton, Oklahoma. Nobody lives there except for them. And it's like if you're driving out from the city, you pass all the windmills. And so the scene with the windmills when they're driving out and you're like passing the windmills and just like how giant they are and the huge fields, like it really got to me. I was like, I miss it so much.
Wow. That was what's so funny is when Daisy Edgar Jones was like, I love Oklahoma or whatever. Mariana was like, has anyone ever said that? And I was like, I guess Morgan has.
There's not a lot in this world that makes me miss Oklahoma, but the new Twisters movie figured out how to do it.
I think too, like as a movie, I was really impressed by how like beautiful it looked. Like the cinematography was great. I thought it was really well directed. First of all, like the director made Minari, which I haven't seen,
love
but
Minari.
like. It was really well directed, and then like the cinematography was great. It was shot on film, I think, wasn't it? Like it really, except for the scenes with the CGI, it really looked like it was shot on film, which I was really impressed by. Like it made Oklahoma look beautiful.
It looked good.
Which like I didn't know. I guess there are more and more things coming out that are convincing me Oklahoma might be a nice state.
You'll have
like,
to go out.
Reservation Dogs, really good show on Hulu if you've never seen it. What?
You did a thumbs up. So it just, I don't know if that's recording it or not.
I really hope that recorded.
Reservation Dogs. Killers of the Flower Moon.
Killers of the Flower Moon was the other one I was thinking of. Yeah,
Oklahoma is really producing a lot. Not Oklahoma. People are producing stuff out of Oklahoma a lot right now, and I'm living for it.
Reservation Dogs is one of the most beautiful TV shows I've ever seen. Like, genuinely beautiful. And Killers of the Flower Moon, I thought also was a really great movie that had like some really good shots. So I was like, yeah. Anyways, I love Twisters. I would watch it again tomorrow.
I think, man, like, the story is simple. It's just a simple film. It's like, here's this main antagonist, which is a twister. Like, it's not hard to get behind. But it's also, like, super energetic and action and the cars and the, like, I think they filmed the scenes with, what's the tornado wrangler? What's his name?
Glenn Powell?
Yeah. Whatever his name is. The tornado wrangler. Like, those scenes of him, like, running his truck around and, like, digging it into the dirt. Like, it felt very action-y. It felt like a lot of different things. Like, in the beginning, it's like a horror movie. Like, just everyone died. They also killed so many people in this movie.
Spoilers alert for Twisters, I guess. Yeah.
In the original Twister, it's like implied that people are getting hurt.
Yeah.
In this movie, like, so many people just get sucked away, never to be seen again.
It's really scary.
It was really the opening scene is crazy intense, and that's what I was worried about with this movie. Is I was like, I feel like, because they have, like, the great VFX and it's just, like, a modern thing, that they're gonna, like, take it too seriously and it's just gonna be a horror movie of them, like, trying to do science-y things. Was not that at all. It was that for, like, 10 minutes. Yeah. And then it turns into, like, this romance and, like, adventure and trying to, like, solve things, and she's, like, dealing with her past. I think it was super well-rounded. It was a little back and forth, but, like, in a good way. It was a well-rounded feeling, I think, overall.
I agree. And the music was pretty good, too. It was like a bunch of original country songs, basically. The only one we, like, laughed out loud when she, like, went back to her mom's house and the song went, you can't take the home out of Oklahoma.
That's right.
I was like, oh, no.
I think I used to have a t-shirt with that, honestly. I do think...
Morgan.
It's like, both movies were set up super simple, like Twister and Twisters, where it's like the tornado, and then it's like you have the difference between the tornado wrangler and the scientist, which kind of turn into like this good guy, bad guy, but they're like on the same team, so it's like this playful thing, and then they add the romance into it, and then you have like the scene in the middle where they themselves are like getting attacked by a tornado and they're not like chasing one.
Yeah.
And then it's all sad. It happens the exact same pace almost in both movies.
It was really similar.
And then they go back home to Aunt Jo or whoever the lady was in Twisters, and you get this
her
like
mom in Twisters.
You get this like heartfelt scene about the past and why they're doing it, and that gives them the go for the end scene to like really top it all off. It was beautiful. I loved it. Made me miss Oklahoma.
So out of 5, what does Twisters get?
I think I gave it 3.5, and I feel pretty good about that.
Okay.
It's like a solid, fun time, but it's nothing extraordinary. And I think like, for me personally, like, I wanted the romance to romance, and it did not. It was like the most subpar romance.
Oh, I actually disagree. I feel like I really liked like leaving it, Mariana. Like that was more of a rom-com. Yeah. Like she felt like it was more of a rom-com than anything. It was just that they didn't kiss at the end.
Yes, they like don't like give you the satisfaction at the end. They like build it up, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. This is so great. They're perfect for each other, and then it's just like.
Then they just like
happy
leave
montage.
Together without kissing, and it's like you know like you can kiss in a movie, guys. Like it's okay. Like you're kind of going for some escapism, so it's like be as unrealistic as you want, you know. Yeah. But yeah, like as the other thing, Mara's like he had like that felt like a better rom-com than Anyone But You. I don't know if you watched Anyone But You, but that was a bad movie.
Oh yeah.
Featuring our my boy Glenn Powell.
Is he? Is he the guy in The Longest Ride?
I don't know.
Let me look.
But he was in Hidden Figures, and then he was in Anyone But You, and Top Gun Maverick, of course, was like the thing where he like where I first saw him. But he's like been really good in a lot of movies, and I like that he's kind of blowing up as like a big movie star.
Definitely not in The Longest Ride, but same vibe.
Same energy.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was really debating between a 3.5 and a 4, and I feel like objectively it's more like a 3.5, maybe even a 3.
Yeah.
But I had so much fun, I gave it a 4. And I'm like,
I was so close to it, but I was like, I know if I watched this again, it wouldn't get a 4. But right now, it feels like.
I think if I watched it again, especially not in a movie theater, I would be like, this is like 3.5 range. But I just had someone. I don't mind changing it later, but right now, it's a 4. If you can see it in a movie theater, I think you definitely should.
So worth it.
It's such a fun experience.
Have you seen the videos of people going to watch it in like the 40X theaters? I saw one, they're like holding their popcorn. It's just flinging them around when the tornadoes are going and it's flying everywhere. I might need to go experience that for myself this week.
I think you should try. I've never seen a movie in 40X, so.
I haven't either.
Twisters would be a crazy one to go see, though.
It just doesn't. I don't know. I go to the movies to relax.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to be on like a roller coaster.
Yeah,
but maybe, I don't know. Maybe Twisters would be fun.
Yeah, maybe this is the one.
Anyways.
Yeah, so that's Twisters. Go watch Twisters. It's so fun. It is just like classic. It felt like a classic movie. It felt like an old movie. Like it was so simple in so many ways. And I think that's like the charm in it. It's also the charm of Oklahoma. It just all is just this old, simple life, and the most interesting thing around is chasing tornadoes and YouTubers from Arkansas being tornado wranglers.
People who live in like big cities will never understand. Okay, like when you live in like Oklahoma or Alabama, there is nothing to do. Yeah. I think you had it worse than I did. Like, I think it was like, what do we do? Oh, we're gonna go to the park and hang out.
Yeah. Go to the Walmart.
Like, there's nothing to do. So you start, I guess, chasing tornadoes.
Yeah. All right. Twisters. 3.5/4 stars, maybe. All right. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to talk about other natural disaster movies. We're back. We're talking natural disaster movies. Yes. What do you usually expect out of your natural disaster films?
I expect to see a bunch of things get destroyed.
Yes.
I think I expect a really big, diverse set of characters. That's like something I think is a staple. Is like you get a ton of people through which to like experience the disaster. Yeah. And like different kinds.
Usually
of
start with like 8 or 10, and
then it gets whittled down.
2 or 3.
That's a good disaster movie right there. And I think. I don't expect like high art, but I expect to be entertained. Yeah. So I'd say destruction, lots of actors, entertainment.
Yeah, I think I don't expect much from a natural disaster film. I go in either looking for a good time or looking for a real sad time.
Fair, valid, yeah.
I feel like they really pick one or the other. Like, you either have a Sharknado or you have, like...
The Impossible with Ewan McGregor. That's, like, a devastating movie. It's like, but it's about a tsunami. Mm-hmm. The one that you want to see.
Yeah. Want to see, not experience.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah. I think it's, either, like, really dramatic and, like, maybe, like, saccharine or sad. But I think most of the time it's, like... Twister or San Andreas, where it's just like, or like I think Independence Day is on a natural disaster, so I won't include it here, but I almost think like a movie like Independence Day or like a Godzilla kind of movie, where there's like monsters or aliens are just tearing stuff up and just like causing all kinds of chaos. But it's nature, so it's like even scarier because it's like this could actually happen. There could actually be a volcano that just like erupted. Like,
I'd like prefer like the cool factor. Like, give me the cool side of it before the like sad, like ruining community side of it.
I agree.
But both are good. Both can be great in a film.
Totally agree.
But I don't think I've ever seen a natural disaster movie that has like really blown me away. I love them like as a whole, but I don't even think there's one in my top like 25 or 30.
That's fair. Yeah.
So it's like I don't expect greatness, but I love like going back to them and watching more of them and more coming out. Like it brings me joy. I just don't think they're like the greatest stories ever most of the time.
That's fair. Like
for a lot of reasons.
Like Twisters will probably not be in like either of our top 10s at the end of this year. Well, maybe yours. I don't know, from this summer. Like, but it's like a super fun movie. Yeah. Even like, and I don't know, maybe that's enough to get it into like the top 10 for the end of the year. But it's also like, I don't think they're the kind of movies that I consistently go back to because I appreciate the like quality of like, I don't know, filmmaking that's present. But, like Sharknado is fun to watch like once and laugh at and have like a good time with, but you know, and even things like San Andreas or 2012 are not things that you consistently revisit because you know, like I think you're right, like sometimes it's just fun to watch like a junky movie. Yeah. You know, like you don't...
And they usually like... I think what really hits it is they're always in this middle zone of like not a lot of budget, but going for insane like CG and locations. Yeah. And so you fall into this like, of course it's not going to be good, but I love what it's trying to do.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think of it as like, you know, it's I guess it's like a McDonald's movie, you know, or like it's like Taco Bell, right? Where it's like, you know, you go to McDonald's and maybe there's this chef at McDonald's, right, who's working in the kitchen and they want to be a Michelin star chef and they're like, I'm gonna make the greatest freaking like McGriddle you've ever had, okay? But at the end of the day, you're still working with McDonald's ingredients, right? You know, it's like junk food, and maybe there's like aspirations for high art, but most of the time with disaster movies, it's going to be junk food, right? Yeah. It's not going to like be super nutritious for you, but you're probably going to have fun. You're probably going to enjoy it.
And you're probably going to go back again.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
I think you're right. Like there is something about, and you alluded to this at the beginning, but there's something about the natural disaster that just like really fascinates us. Yeah. And so even though most of the time they aren't like the greatest movies, like you can't help but go back and like keep like chasing that experience.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, you know, the greatest movie ever made.
Yeah. So what do we think makes these either lean towards good or lean towards bad?
I think a lot of it comes down to the characters. You know, like if you have, I like the ones that have just like a big cast of a lot of different actors. Like those are really fun. And a lot of times it'll be like people who are like kind of famous but not like super famous. They're like, oh, I recognize her from that other like TV show that I watched that one time or whatever. And so it's like kind of fun to play that game with it. And I think it comes down to having like a couple central characters that you can get invested in and kind of care about.
Yeah.
That to me, if you get like that side of things right, then I tend to have a little more like affection for your movie as a whole, because like the effects don't even have to be that good. I think what when I am interested in the peril, it's because like there's like characters or actors that I like that are the ones who are in danger, not necessarily because I'm like, wow, this CGI avalanche looks so good, right?
Yeah, the characters are so important because the story is so straightforward.
Yeah,
it's like survive. This thing is happening, especially like in Twisters. Like it's this, like there's like 7 different tornadoes in the span of like an hour and a half, and it's like it's not gonna change. Like it is like the story is survival, and so when you have more characters that are working really well together, it makes it way more interesting. Because if it's just the same 2 people who don't really have a good dynamic and they're just fighting tornadoes or running from a tsunami the whole time, it's just not gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
There is like... Oh, sorry.
Good.
There is like something really like... I don't know, I think it's the same reason we like watching shows like Survivor. You know, we want to see like the human spirit overcome. You know, we like get sad whenever one of the characters dies because of something like this, right? When there is like, oh, like San Andreas is an earthquake movie. And you watch like people die in like these heroic ways saving other people, and you watch like all the really unlikable characters die really idiotic deaths. And it's like there's something like just like viscerally satisfying about like the most like, you know, like base level. It's like they overcame something and you get so hyped, like you can't help but get hype. And then the character who's like an obvious jerk dies like a really over the top death, and it's so satisfying. It's like they know like there's not a lot of depth to it because the story is just survive. like they just kind of try to make it intense for you and give you these little bits along the way. Yeah. But it's like like everything is like a base level of like human reaction where it's like I get so thrilled because I'm like watching like I don't know like some vague thing of the human spirit maybe. Yeah. It's like they're overcoming this, or that guy was a jerk and he didn't listen and now he dies in extreme in the original Twister. Yeah. Like the death at the end of that movie from the bad guy is so over the top. It's because he didn't listen to Bill Paxton.
We need to turn around. He's like, no, and then just a giant tree trunk, I think, straight through him.
And so then funny. He gets sucked up into the tornado. Yeah. It's like, it's so, but he was a jerk, and so you're kind of like, he didn't deserve that, but like you kind of are satisfied that he died a really...
That's what's also great about natural disaster movies is you have so much like creative... You have to be creative in like how you're getting rid of characters or the problems they're going through because it is just like survive. So then you get all these crazy scenarios of like, why else would someone like want to chase a tornado? Like you get this crazy like, oh, we're gonna shoot fireworks into it, or like you just get really creative in like how people are dying or why they're surviving or who they're taking care of. And I'm also thinking of this is not a natural disaster, but A Quiet Place Day One.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
it's like really simple, and you're really just following like one or two people the whole time. But it's like there's so many different creative ways because it's really just like the same problem the whole movie, but there's so many like creative storylines to follow and how they're dealing with that problem. And I think that's what natural disasters like bring to the table is like, how are they gonna make one event, one tsunami interesting for an hour and a half to 2 hours? Like, how many things could possibly go wrong with one natural disaster that it continues to stay interesting? And they find really creative ways to do it, which I think is the appeal to it a lot of times.
I totally agree. Yeah. Like, you get to be really creative in a, like, I don't know, not a smaller way because it is massive, but it's like... Yeah. You know, what, like, new peril can we put these characters in? Yeah. And it's, like, things that... And it always forces you to think, like, how would I react in the situation? I think we find a lot of enjoyment out of that. Like, because
I always think, like, I would be so much better at this.
Fair, yeah.
They deserve to die because they're idiots. I could have done that so much better. Especially when, like, in Twisters, there were so many scenes where they were, like... Stay down, and the guy's like, yeah, he's getting up, like, as he's saying it, and then he, like, gets sucked away. I'm like, oh my gosh,
it's
people.
Ridiculous, I know. The girl who's like, there's no tornado, it's always a false alarm, and then she gets sucked up in the tornado, like, obviously,
And they do, like, they play with that, like, they make these, like, silly, annoying characters that can die in these silly ways, and it, like, it's a really interesting story and concept to work around because it's like, how do we make a natural disaster like entertaining, fun? Like, how do we sprinkle in like comedic relief? And
Brandon Perea,
yes,
my boy. But yeah, it's like you know, we want to watch humans try to survive, like man versus wild, right? Like that's, you know, I think at a base level, and then if you have a really well-written character who can like survive it, then you feel awesome. Or not even a very well-written character, but a relatable character that like comes out the other side stronger, you know, and like you feel awesome. Like maybe it's The Rock and it's like a completely unrealistic situation, but like he's The Rock and like you're kind of like, yeah, I want him to survive, you know. Or maybe it's more like, you know, even like A Quiet Place where it's like the, you know, A Quiet Place Day One, like Lupita Nyong'o has cancer and like like she's not strong, but like she's such a well done character in that movie that you really care about her survival.
That's another interesting part though, is it's not a hero.
Yeah.
And it's not anyone who specifically knows anything about the situation. They're just there and it's happening to them and you're just witnessing very basic people doing very basic things to survive, but in a super interesting way a lot of times.
I think that's what's so compelling about them is because these situations happen all the time to normal people. Like The Impossible is like the tsunami comes and hits this it hits like a vacation town in Thailand and you're watching all of these like affluent tourists from all the parts of the world like interacting with Taiwanese like locals, you know, and like having to like find a common language when they're like rich Americans or Europeans, and like they, you know, it's like these are just regular people, and like honestly not even regular people, because they have enough money to go on vacation to Thailand, and now they're like have to survive in this tsunami, and it's like, yeah, like how would I react in this situation? They're not superheroes. You're like, even like Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt and Twister are not superheroes. Even if they know about tornadoes, they're just people trying to survive and like do something, and it's so compelling when you can do that well.
I don't think there's enough natural disaster movies, really. Like, I have
okay,
seen,
wait.
You know what we didn't mention at all is avalanches. Like snow avalanches. I feel like I've seen that in movies, but...
I thought about blizzards, too.
Yeah.
Blizzard's an interesting natural disaster. Or like a sandstorm. Like, we think of like water or like wind being blown, but there are parts of the world where like, yeah, like you get blizzards.
Yeah.
Like, I would watch a blizzard movie. For sure.
I would hate that. I also think there's not I would love like a blizzard movie that's just like straight horror. Like a lot of these hit on horror, like they're like, oh, it's a little scary, but it's always more of like a thriller.
It's
like
more like intense than
but maybe because it is super intense. But I would love to see just more either like fun little rom-com natural disasters like Twisters, or the complete opposite, like scariest horror movie you've ever seen. Like a forest fire movie where they're just fighting forest fires the whole time.
Oh,
super
actually,
interesting.
There is a good forest fire movie. It's called Those Who Wish Me Dead. It has Angelina Jolie. It's like kind of like a conspiracy thriller at the same time, because there's this the child of this guy who's like a whistleblower of a big company. Like has these like these hitmen go like after him and his dad, and they get his dad, but the kid escapes into the woods. At the same time, there's like a huge forest fire.
I think I've seen a trailer for this.
And so like Angelina Jolie has to go rescue the kid, and like so it's like kind of like half conspiracy thriller, half natural disaster movie, but it was good. Like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really well done movie, and I forgot that I even watched it. Like, forest fire, like really timely natural disaster. Yeah. So yeah, avalanche, blizzard, forest fire. We know some other natural disasters that could have movies made out of them. Yeah. If you're listening, Hollywood.
Yeah. Make us some more natural disaster movies.
We know what's going on, right? Like we'll hook you guys up. I do want to ask before we close the episode: is Titanic a natural disaster movie? No. It's a glacier.
No. I know, because if the glacier chased them down and attacked them, I'd count it as a natural disaster movie. But like in the same way, like you could say like Gravity was a natural disaster. It's like they chose to be shot into the most dangerous part of the universe. Like that's not natural in any way.
If humans were meant to be in space, like that's not it's a man-made disaster.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like if we were meant to be in space or be in the ocean, we would breathe water or not need oxygen, and neither of those are true. So if you are not on the land of the earth breathing air, that is not a natural. That's your own fault. It's not a natural disaster.
So yeah, going out on a cruise like Titanic, humans were meant to be out there.
It's true.
Okay, that's fair. I was just like, is this a glacier?
Maybe it is like, a natural disaster.
It's like human stupidity that leads them into the glacier, not to besmirch like the tragedy of the Titanic. But,
I do often think about like how many places there are in the world that you can live in that no natural disasters ever happen, and there's quite a few.
Oh really?
I feel like we're almost like Atlanta doesn't really have like hurricanes or tornadoes.
Yeah, we don't really get any of that here.
Yeah, so because I used to think like no one is safe. Everyone has some kind of natural disaster, but I guess there is a lot of places that don't have them. So the question is like, why would you live there if it gets taken out all the time? But
yeah. Like Oklahoma's just constantly terrorized by tornadoes. Florida's constantly terrorized by hurricanes. Yeah. But the whole U.S. could disappear with one eruption from like Mount St. Helen or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, volcanoes. Oh my gosh. Not enough volcano movies out there. I want to see people fighting volcanoes.
There is a movie called Volcano that I heard of, but I've never seen it.
There's Volcano. I thought of this episode a long time ago because one of my favorite movies, like in memory, not in actuality, is called Super Volcano or Yellowstone. It's about Yellowstone, and they made us watch it in middle school, and I was reading like the 12 Letterboxd reviews that it has, and all of them were like, I watched this in school and it's the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. It's bad. It's not good. It's like a BBC documentary, but it's fake, like a fictional documentary of what could happen. And I loved it as a kid, ate it up. It's like what made me, so I watched that, and then 2012 I think was a big one for me, of like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, this is crazy, like all this conspiracy of what could happen in a natural disaster, and that's kind of what started my love for it. And then Twister, of course, and yeah, so we're just here to petition for more natural disaster movies. Yes. And that is all we have for you today.
Agreed.
Let us know what you think of Twisters. Let us know if we're missing any great natural disaster movies that we did not talk about. Thank you so much for listening. We're on YouTube, Instagram.
Like and subscribe.
Spotify. Give us your reviews. Talk to us. Hang out with us. Thanks for listening.